friends, welcome to the Orange Easel studio. We are out in our outdoor classroom today. Ooh, if I hit the table, the whole camera shakes. So I came out to the patio because it is gorgeous out here, and I found a spot underneath my umbrella. And of course, it's an orange umbrella, so I look very orange right now, but we're gonna go with it because I'm not sitting in the sun, because then I can't see you and I gotta put my sunglasses on, and I feel rude doing that. So, all right, so we're gonna get going today. This is Friday, which is my wild card day. This one is whatever I feel like, and whatever I couldn't fit in the rest of the broadcast schedule that I figured out. And so I believe I titled this one Rocks and Paint. And if you know me, you know I love rocks. Like, I love rocks in all of our applications, whether we're using them for sculpture or we're using them for paint. I love them in sensory play for kids. I like all kinds of rocks. And so this is a really fun one for me, and I could sit here all day and do this. So we're going to paint some rocks today, and I've got some materials here, and we'll kind of talk through different ways that you can do this. I'm going to show you one. I'll actually paint one with you, and I'll show you all the ones that I've played with this morning, and we'll have a good time. So the things that I'm using today, the first, of course, is rocks. And so I've got some here. And if you watched some of our videos before, like the dangerous art one that we just put up on YouTube a couple weeks ago, we use these rocks a lot. These are from Dollar Tree, and they're really smooth, flat rocks, kind of like river rocks maybe. So, and they come, some of them are more oval and rounded shape, and some of them are really flat, like ones that you could skip across kind of a stream or a pond. So we've got these, and if you've got rocks outside that are kind of, I wish I had some, I should go get some. There's some over there that are like landscape rocks, right? And they're kind of maybe they're a little bit more triangular shaped or cone shaped, or pyramid shaped, and they've got bumps in them. You can use that one as well. I like the smooth rocks because I feel like I can get, especially when I get to like the letterings, like I did this one this morning. See, and of course it's backwards on Facebook Live, but it says Creative Summer. When you want to do something very detailed and very intricate, you want a smooth surface on your rock. But that doesn't mean that you can't paint a bumpy rock. You just got to kind of change your design to make it fit whatever you plan on putting on it, or go find some nice smooth rocks. So Dollar Tree is a great spot to go get rocks. A whole big bag of them for $1. Now, as far as your color goes, I love dark rocks with light paint, and I like light rocks with dark paint. We want to look for that kind of contrast. These ones are great for the really bright colors. They kind of pop off there, that white, right? That white really pops off. If I had used a dark color on that, it wouldn't pop off there. So if I wanted to paint with dark, the first thing I'd have to do is make a base coat of white on here, and I can do that, if you want to do them really fast, you can do that with actually spray paint. So you just line them all up, spray them all with a primer or with a white, and then you're good to go with some of the darker colors on a dark rock because you've primed it with white. So there are ways around it. I love the dark rocks, and so that's what I did. Now, what do you do with these, right? So all these fun painted rocks, you can put them in your flower pots, right, as a decoration. I'll talk to you about how to finish those so that they work outside. You can put them in your garden beds as kind of a welcome stone for other people to see and treasures to find. I love the idea of hiding them around town in different landscaping beds for other people to find and to make them smile. So if you make some and you hide them around town, I think that's kind of a fun little treasure. There is an Instagram account, and I should have looked it up before I even started this video. I'll put it in the comments, okay? But I want to say it's Memphis. It's either Memphis or Nashville, but one of those cities they have their area code, and I think it might be like 806. If somebody knows, write it in the comments. But they have their own hashtag, and it's their area code. So if it's, say it's, we're here in 816, our hashtag would be 816 rocks, and then people, they decorate their rocks, and then they write the hashtag on the back with like a paint pen or actually with paint, and they hide them around town. And when you find one, you can collect these rocks around town, and then you're supposed to take a picture when you find it and use the hashtag so people can see that their rock has been found. And it's just a fun community thing and a treasure hunt that you do throughout the urban city, which sounds like so much fun. Hi, Sarah. Yes, I love to paint rocks too. So definitely, I'm not lying when I say I could get wrapped up in doing these all day long. I'm going to take mine, actually take them up to the square, and I'm going to hide them around the square in downtown Liberty. So maybe you'll find one of mine. If you do, you can tag me, okay? And then you can make some of yours and hide them, and if I find yours, I'll tag you, all right? So you got all these really fun rocks, and this is my little ladybug one. I'm using an acrylic paint. So I'm going to paint one for you, I promise. But I'm talking right now. So I'm using an acrylic paint. Parents who, you know, acrylic is not washable, right? It's a permanent paint. I get it on my clothes. There's a wasp. Not a fan of flying, stinging insects. So if I scream, that's why. Okay, so these are acrylic paints. They're not going to come out of my clothes. They are going to wash off my hands, which is good because I already have some on me. But they're not going to come out of my clothes. So if you're doing this with young kids, make sure you got old stuff on. Maybe do it outside. Maybe cover the surface that you're doing it on, because it's not going to come off, which is great for rocks that you plan on leaving outside so that they can weather the elements. I actually coat mine with a clear spray, so that way this is my, it's a high gloss clear spray and it makes it really pop, but it also protects that paint so that it doesn't come off. So you're using acrylic paint, just plan ahead. Now say you've got little ones at home, so you got like 2s and 3s and 4s. They're not going to paint a rock that you necessarily care to keep. Maybe they do, but let's just say they're not going to. But you want to do this as a process art. And we do this a ton with our young kids, where we just go out here to our landscape bed and we grab rocks and we set them up here on our patio table and we let them just paint the rocks. And what a great exercise for those little kids to be able to paint a three-dimensional surface. There's a lot of problem solving that has to happen when they have to turn and hold and figure out how to get in all those little nooks and crannies as opposed to a flat sheet of paper. So we paint rocks as a process art for those little ones. If you're doing that, just use washable paint. Use whatever paint you've got. I will give you a tip when you're painting dark colored rocks or tree branches. We paint a lot of tree branches with our little kids and we use washable paint. If you add just a hint of white, not enough to change the color like too drastically, because we're not looking for pastel unless you want pastel, but a hint of white in those colors will increase the coverage. It kind of increases the opacity, how opaque it is. It's going to increase that, so that way it actually covers and it shows up on your sticks or your rocks or your leaves, whatever you're painting as your nature items. So little kids, set up a table with a bunch of nature items, let them go to town with some washable paint, and it is a process activity. I love all the hearts, whoever's getting those. You're my favorite. Now, those of you who are going to make these gorgeous rocks to share with other people, to make them smile, let's go through that. So I've got a nice flat rock. I'm gonna do an abstract design. So this one here, this is a nice little flat one, and I'll paint here on the top, right? So I'm gonna move mine out of the way. I love itty bitty brushes for this, like itty bitty little brushes. So you can go to Michael's, you can get yourself a little liner brush, or this one here, this one's really nice. This is actually a watercolor brush, but see how it comes to a nice round point to it? That's what I like. So I'm going to use that one for my teeny tiny little rock. I already had a lot of coffee today, so I know that I've got a shaky hand, so I got to brace it someplace on a table. And this is what I tell my kids when they're going to do little intricate work, where they're going to do writing. Don't try to float that arm up in the air and write with it. Help yourself out. Hi, Mom. Cameron and Desmond and I are watching. Hi, Cameron and Desmond and Mom. Good to see you guys. Exciting day over there. So here we go. We got our little brush, and I'm going to brace my hand so that it's nice and controlled, and we're going to paint a rainbow on this one. Because I know Cameron and Desmond, those are my nephews. I know that they are going to like a rainbow. Right, guys? Right. Okay, so here's my palette. I'll take red is the first color of a rainbow. I take a little bit on my brush, and I'm going to brace my hand. I'm going to paint one stripe across. Now when I did my ladybug, I used a bigger brush because I had to cover, you know, the whole back end of that ladybug for its leaf or for its wings. And when I did that, it kind of spread out the paint, and I ended up with needing to do a couple different coats. So if you find out that, you know, your lighter colors need a couple different coats, you can go ahead and let it dry in between coats. Speed that up a little bit by putting it in the sunshine or in the breeze. Acrylic paints dry so fast, So, so your wait time isn't going to be too long. You can speed it up even more if you really are impatient. You can get out a hairdryer. I'm not that impatient. I like to paint more than one of these at a time. So if I know that I've got one that needs some dry time, I'll work on multiple rocks at the same time. So that way while I'm waiting for one to dry, I can actually just paint another one. I did my ladybug and my bee at the same time actually, because I had to wait for the yellow to dry before I could put the black on top. Because you know what happens if you try to paint black on top of yellow? It's not pretty. It makes a really yucky color. So we're doing orange now. You guys know I don't ever, hardly ever anyway, have all my colors. I usually end up mixing all of mine, so I went ahead and mixed me some orange. You guys know what colors make orange? Red and yellow. Put my red and yellow together and I made some orange. Orange is my favorite color. Ooh, isn't that pretty? Yay! If you, let's see, acrylic paints, we should talk about those. You can find those at the craft store. You don't need anything fancy. You don't need to go get the really expensive ones like the Liquitex or anything that's actually in the art supply center. You can stay kind of on the craft side of the store for a project like this. Those paints in the art center, they have their uses. They are amazing paints. And a lot of artists prefer those if we're painting on canvases. But something like this, your craft paints, the ones that come in the little 97-cent bottles, those are just fine for this. You don't need anything more than that. You might find that those paints cover a little bit better because usually they're a tad bit thicker, but don't feel like you have to go spend $8.99 on a tube of one color of paint. Go ahead and just use what you got. I'm a big fan of using what we got. We're going to yellow. We're moving along here. When I finish this one, what's after yellow, guys? What's after yellow? We're going to go with green. My paint on my palette is starting to dry. That's the thing about acrylic paint. When you get out your palette, make sure you don't put out too much of that color because it's going to dry real fast, especially if you're doing this outside in the sunshine. Your paint is going to dry quickly on that palette, and then you're not gonna be able to use it. Unlike a watercolor, when you've got a palette and you can rehydrate it with water and keep using that color, it doesn't work that way when you're dealing with acrylic paints. It doesn't rehydrate. It's just a total loss. So, other things that you can paint on rocks. I love when I see people, when they look at a rock and they see it and they think, what does this shape look like, right? And you do a little bit of problem solving and a little bit of designing, and you can take that rock and you can turn it into whatever that shape is. I think that's really fun. I love it when people put happy words on them, or maybe something that encouraging that people need to hear. I saw a really great idea on gosh, I don't know if it was Instagram or Pinterest. I'm pretty sure I pinned it, where it was a school, I believe, and they did it with their fifth graders. Every time their fifth graders were graduating, those fifth graders designed and painted a rock, and then that rock went into a pathway that was in the garden of the school, and it had a little sign next to it about the paths that we follow or travel, and the words and wisdoms that we leave behind. And I just thought that was so sweet. So we might end up doing something like that to welcome our guests here at the studio. We have some landscaping out front with tons of rocks in it, and seeing if people want to help us decorate that area and that landscaping. But I love that idea as a collaborative installation for some people. All right, I mixed a little bit of light blue so I can make some pretty clouds on the bottom of my rainbow, because I feel like it needs a cloud, maybe two. And then we'll show you what this looks like. Like I said, if I really, really wanted to, I could dry this with a hair dryer to speed it up. But like the red that I painted, when we first started, is pretty much already dry. So there's my finished rainbow on my rock. So to finish this, we'd let it dry really good, right? Then this is a job that we do outside. This is a clear, glossy spray. You do it inside, and boy, it takes forever to get that smell out of the house. Don't do this inside. Do it outside. You would normally wait for this to dry. I'm in a hurry because nobody wants to sit here and watch me. I have it on a piece of paper on a tray, so I'm not spraying my table. or my concrete. I mean, I do spray my concrete, but you don't spray your concrete, okay? Here we go. Want to see how shiny it is? Look at that. It makes that color really pop off. That gloss is going to hold that acrylic paint on. Even though it's a permanent paint, if you've ever used acrylic and gotten it wet, it does lift off. It kind of peels off. Acrylic is very plasticky when it dries, and so you get enough water underneath it and it will actually peel off of a smooth surface. And since our rocks are smooth, if you give it enough water to it and you're outside in the weather and the elements, it will eventually wear off. So you want to clear coat it. Let me show you my fun little bee that I made. Any fun? So I painted the yellow on that first, painted the whole back half of him yellow, and then I used the black to do the stripes, and then the eyeballs, and then the very last thing I did was the wings. And then this is my ladybug. These are really fun if you've got young kids. These are fun to make, and they become toys. So you can even use these inside, and then you've got kind of some creative little toys to play with. I've seen people use these for tic-tac-toe pieces. So I've got 6 ladybugs and I've got 6 bees, and I use them for tic-tac-toe. I've seen, you can buy them on Etsy actually, get a whole bunch of rocks and make alphabet stones out of them. So if you've got somebody out there who's very crafty and wants to make a set of alphabets, you can do a set of letters, and then that way those kids can work on putting those letters together and making words out of them and spelling, and it becomes a toy that they can play with. It's very interactive. And then one of the very fun things I've seen also is to take a whole bunch of these stones and put squiggly lines on them. So you make a set of say 30 of these that just have a very simple white squiggly line or a white straight line, and then they become something that you build with. So you match up the ends of those lines and it builds a shape. So it's a very open-ended toy for those kids to play with. So I hope that you have fun painting rocks today. Look for mine on the Liberty Square, because I'm going to go hide them up there when I'm done here. Who knows when that'll be. No, that's not true. I told the kids I'd take them to the pool today, so I do have to go home at some point. They didn't want to come make a video with me. They wanted to take a nap today. So, oh well, I'll go wake them up and take them to the pool. So this is really fun. Have a good time with it. We'll be back on Monday. I can't even tell you what it is. I'll take a look at that. But Monday we'll be back with an activity for our 3s and 4s. Tuesday for our toddlers and infants. Wednesday for our early elementary. Thursday for our later elementary up into teen and high school. And then Friday's a wild card. If you have suggestions on a type of video that you'd like to see for our creative summer series, just shoot me a message and I will do my very best to get it into the lineup. You can look for this one in replay on YouTube here probably later tonight. So bye guys, bye mom, have a good night guys.